Today is August 8th, 2023, which marks 9 years since the release of Five Nights at Freddy's 1. I had already planned on doing a series where I look back on every FNAF game, so what better time than now to look back on the game that started it all. The fact that in 1 year Five Nights at Freddy's will be a decade old honestly doesn't feel real, and makes me feel pretty old. It's no doubt that when Five Nights at Freddy's 1 released, the genre of indie horror was changed forever. Very rarely does an indie developer release a game that is able to captivate so many millions of people around the world. But Scott Cawthon managed to pull it off and create a new take on the horror genre that had never before been seen. Because of the large differences with the internet between now and then, I want to also cover the game's community at the time alongside the game's actual story and gameplay, looking at overall fan reception and the crazy theories that were made during the era it was released. Funny enough, I actually made a few of these theories myself when I was a kid and posted them under a different channel. If only I didn't delete them all, I would be able to show you guys today. Anyways, what made the original FNAF so scary? Why is it still regarded with so much praise all these years later? These are some of the questions I'm looking to answer today. So, without any more rambling, let's take a look back at Five Nights at Freddy's. Before the release of Five Nights at Freddy's, the horror genre of gaming looked a lot different. During this time, the most popular horror games were the AAA ones, such as Outlast, Dead Space, and BioShock. Indie horror games such as Slender the Arrival and Amnesia also had a rather large audience on YouTube, all thanks to Let's Players such as PewDiePie and Markiplier. But after the release of Five Nights at Freddy's in 2014, everything seems to have changed, either for the better or worse. Spawning from the Five Nights at Freddy's series was a new genre of indie horror now known as mascot horror. Mascot horror is a genre of horror games which mainly centers around a mascot, most of these games being directly inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's. You know, Poppy Playtime, Bendy and the Ink Machine, Dark Deception. Post 2014, AAA horror games continued to do good and please the adult audience, while mascot horror became increasingly more popular with younger audiences, especially on YouTube. Five Nights at Freddy's was absolutely massive after its release, gathering hype every single time a new installment would release. And the fact that the brand is still going strong with hit games still releasing almost 10 years later just goes to show the impact that this original title really had. On paper, the gameplay of Five Nights at Freddy's is extremely simple. Use your camera to watch over the animatronics, and use your doors and lights to fend them off. Many people may wonder how this could even be scary due to its simplistic nature. However, its simplicity is what allows it to be as terrifying as it is. The key to making this game feel scared is the power meter. We have a limited amount of power to make it through the night, and any action we do, whether it's turning on the light or checking the cameras, will run this battery down. Running out of battery before 6 AM will result in our death, so it is up to us to use our power wisely. Because we are given the responsibility of managing this finite resource, the game is now able to use this against us. During each night, the game will use many different tactics to build up tension, causing us to buckle under the pressure and do irrational things, such as closing a door when we aren't supposed to, or checking the lights too many times. One of the ways this game builds tension within us is through the scariest animatronic in the game, that being Foxy. Unlike the other animatronics who have a set path they must follow in order to reach our office, Foxy instead acts like a ticking time bomb. Foxy needs to be monitored on his respective camera throughout the night, as failing to do so will cause him to slowly begin moving off stage. Once Foxy has fully exited his curtain, we have a very short time window to close the door before Foxy runs straight down the hall and into our office. To build tension within us, the game will sometimes have Foxy sit in the final position before leaving the curtain for multiple hours during the night. Throughout the whole time, the stress that Foxy could at any moment sprint straight towards you causes you to begin second guessing yourself, making you check the cameras more and maybe even just close that door to be safe. Freddy's mechanic is also very similar to this. Throughout the night, every once in a while you will hear Freddy's laugh, indicating that he has moved. Freddy will move 5 times before moving one final time into our office. If you are able to trust your gut and not give in to the fear, you can stop Freddy from killing you without even checking the cameras. This is no easy task though, as the thought that you may have miscounted will always haunt the back of your mind. The game also tries to mess with you even more through its audio design. There are a few different kinds of audio you will hear throughout your nights. First are the sound cues, things like footsteps, Freddy's laugh, and Chica's banging pots and pans. The other kind are red herrings, basically sound effects that exist to make you feel uneasy and also make you question if you heard something lurking nearby. Things like creepy ambient noises, indiscernible words from a distorted voice, and circus music all play to distract you from what you need to hear in order to survive. This means that to master Five Nights at Freddy's, you must also master your own fear. You need to be able to trust your gut in certain scenarios regardless of the tension that's been built up. Considering Scott Cawthon's limited resources when creating this game, the fact that he was able to create such iconic gameplay for the first installment is seriously impressive. The game also offers a challenge to any players that think the base game isn't hard enough. On top of a 6th night which rewards the player with a paycheck revealing the protagonist's name, the game also features a custom night. In this custom night, we are able to set each of the animatronics AI anywhere between 1 and 20. This gave the part of the community which cared mainly about gameplay one final challenge they were able to focus on, one that took extreme skill and understanding of the mechanics. This challenge is not for those who are easily frustrated, as this challenge is very hard. I'm sure the feeling of completing it though does feel rewarding.
Oh my god! Oh, I did it! Ah! I did it! Oh god! Yes! Yes!
The graphics are another thing about Five Nights at Freddy's that I think makes it stand out a lot amongst other games. Something about the way Scott Cawthon models things has always had a sort of uncanny look to it. His art style, while sometimes jarring,
Bro, no!
is one that can be instantly recognized by millions of fans. This lends itself perfectly to a game like Five Nights at Freddy's, where the horror of the animatronics comes from the idea of them being uncanny. As many people know, the inspiration for FNAF 1 was actually a critic telling Scott that a previous game's characters looked like animatronics. The look for the 4 main animatronics of FNAF 1 I feel like played a huge part in why this game became so popular. Immediately after the release of the game, the characters became instantly iconic, receiving fan art, cosplays, animations, you name it. This was yet another thing Scott Cawthon struck gold with in his first entry. If he had gone with more boring, basic designs for the animatronics, the series may not even be where it is today. The atmosphere for this game is very dark. The entire pizzeria is shrouded in darkness. Filthy walls and trash cover the place, giving off the impression that this restaurant is not very well kept. Our small office space helps remind us how vulnerable we are. Thanks to the voids of darkness on each of our sides, we constantly need to be in fear that animatronics could attack at any moment. This reinforces the idea in the back of our mind that we are constantly in danger. On top of this already limited visibility, static fills each of the cameras, making it even harder than it already was to spot the animatronics. The way each animatronic poses in their respective cameras adds a lot of horror to the game, and also gives each animatronic their own unique characteristics. For example, Bonnie is the aggressive one, always heading straight towards us and staring into the camera. Chica is the weird animatronic, always seen making strange faces, as well as doing weird things in the kitchen that we can't see. Freddy is the quiet one who stays back in the shadows and attacks when the time is right. And Foxy is the unstable one, who will act spontaneously and needs to be watched over as often as possible. Some of these camera renders are seriously terrifying. One thing about the first entry in the series that makes it so special is that these animatronics are not meant to move. Unlike the newer games like Security Breach, where the animatronics are full-on robots designed to walk around, these are not. These animatronics are meant to be like the Chuck E. Cheese ones, only made to perform on stage, which is what makes it so creepy when they begin to act abnormal and walk around. Alright, so now for arguably the most discussed aspect of Five Nights at Freddy's, its lore and secrets. Choosing to have the gameplay be the forefront of the first game, Scott spends very little time giving the players details about the story, instead opting to put little bits of detail into Easter eggs. The story the game does give us up front is rather simple. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is looking for a brand new night guard to come watch over the place from 12 AM to 6 AM. Our protagonist, who at the time time was named Mike Schmidt, takes the job and is guided by a previous employee who talks to us on the phone throughout the game. These phone calls mainly serve as a way for Scott to tell us about the gameplay mechanics. However, every once in a while the phone guy will randomly drop a piece of lore. For example, the infamous Bite of 87 line, which had people theorizing for many years to come.
They used to be allowed to walk around during the day too, but then there was the Bite of 87. Yeah. It's amazing that the human body can live without the frontal lobe, you know?
Scott wasn't even sure if FNAF was going to be successful, so he was most likely just leaving breadcrumbs he could pick up on later if he chose to, which was really smart on his part. On night 4, we actually hear the phone guy die.
I'm gonna try to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. Oh no.
And then on night 5 are given this weird distorted audio in place of a phone call. Reversing this audio, it is actually revealed as an excerpt from Autobiography of a Yogi, a book that came out in 1946. It's not clear what this book has to do with Five Nights at Freddy's though, and could possibly just be Scott including a book he likes into his game. The most amount of info we got on the story though was in the form of these posters, which had a random chance of appearing in the East Hall corner. In one poster we learned that on June 26th, 2 children went missing after someone was seen luring them into the back room with the help of a mascot costume. In the next poster, we learned that 5 children went missing at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Once again, a man used a mascot costume to lure the children away. No bodies were discovered, however, the man responsible was charged. In the next poster, we learn what could have potentially happened to those bodies. The pizzeria was once again being threatened to shut down after reports from the health department came through regarding an awful odor coming from the animatronics. Police were soon informed about the odor and reportedly discovered blood around the eyes and mouths of the animatronics. In this final poster, we learn that Freddy Fazbear's Pizza will be closing by the year's end, due to the bad publicity caused by the tragedy that had occurred years prior. Some less lore-heavy, creepy Easter eggs include things like seeing the animatronic heads as well as the endo turn to look at the camera, the creepy poster of Freddy ripping his head off, and the various moments where the phrase "it's me" is shown to us. This happens constantly throughout FNAF 1, whether it's seen on Foxy's sign, in the hallucinations, or written on the wall. There is no confirmation on what this phrase refers to, but it is heavily inferred that the one saying this is Golden Freddy. Speaking of Golden Freddy, they are by far the most memorable Easter egg from this game. Golden Freddy is a ghostly yellow version of Freddy that will sometimes haunt the player during a playthrough. On camera 2B, there is a poster of Freddy that can be seen on the wall. When opening up this camera, there is a very rare chance that the poster will be replaced with one of Golden Freddy's face. Upon encountering this poster, lowering our monitor will reveal that Golden Freddy is now slumped over in our office. Golden Freddy will then proceed to jump scare us and crash our game. Many people also believed that typing in 1987 into the custom night would summon Golden Freddy. However, this wasn't true. That was until Scott actually heard these rumors and decided to add it in as an Easter egg. Because FNAF 1 has such little information to work with when trying to piece together theories, some of these theories are pretty wild. The most popular theory at the time was an old game theory video titled "Five Nights at Freddy's Scariest Monster is You." In this now poorly aged video, MatPat makes comparisons between a real-life shooting at Chuck E. Cheese and the game, claiming that the 5 victims in the shooting represent the 5 missing children. He also connects each victim to their respective animatronic, and I know this was a long time ago, but wow, this theory is insanely disrespectful, and I'm still shocked that he even decided to upload this, let alone leave it up for this long. Another popular theory at the time was Foxy did the Bite of 87. Because there were so few animatronics in FNAF 1, and thanks to Foxy's decommissioned appearance, many people started to believe that he was the animatronic responsible for the Bite of 87. The only evidence for this theory was Foxy's out of order order sign, with people claiming that Foxy was decommissioned because he had bitten a kid, and some people would also point towards the fact that Foxy's jaw is always open, pinning the damage of the animatronic to the incident. On the other hand, there were also a select few people who believed Foxy meant no harm at all and was actually a good guy. This one is a huge reach, with even the wiki stating that there is no evidence for it at all. This speculation that Foxy was a good guy came from the fact that he is the only animatronic to not attack you directly during his jump scare. Foxy instead leans into the doorway before the screen cuts to static. People cited this as Foxy simply checking in on Mike, although that wouldn't really make sense because how would that kill us? Well, the strong believers of this theory explain that away by claiming that Foxy leaning into our office gives Mike a heart attack. Yeah, this is probably the biggest reach of all time. Or maybe the theory that Phone Guy's body was inside Golden Freddy. Just like the last theory, there is no substantial evidence pointing to this being real. It's purely speculation. I guess because Golden Freddy is slumped over, that means the Phone Guy is stuffed inside. Now that I think about it though, we never did get an explanation on where the Phone Guy's body ended up after he was killed. Now this last one isn't a theory and more of a hoax, but who else remembers Sparky the dog? This hoax arose shortly after the game's release and fooled many fans of the series, including myself as a child. This hoax depicted a dog-like animatronic peeking its head through the doorway of Parts and Service. Due to the blurry nature of the FNAF cameras, it was hard to tell if the render was a real image or not. Also, whoever made the actual image did a really good job, because it still holds up to this day. Alright, so now for the community. The community at first started small with only a few people greenlighting the game on Steam. That was until the game released and absolutely blew up, growing the community to a large amount. One content creator to thank for the explosion of Five Nights at Freddy's is Markiplier. Markiplier uploaded his FNAF playthrough on August 12th after being asked by his friend Yamimash to check out the game. This video did insane numbers, now sitting at a staggering 114 million views, making it not only one of the most viewed FNAF videos, but also the most viewed gaming video on Markiplier's channel. Another video blowing up alongside this Markiplier Let's Play was a song made for the game by The Living Tombstone, a popular YouTuber known for making songs on various games. This song became instantly iconic and managed to pull over 300 million views, which is unreal. Also, a few months after the game's release, we would also begin seeing fan art of the main four animatronics becoming very common on the internet, along with fan animations both drawn and made in Source Filmmaker, as well as some fans creating cosplays of the animatronics. At the end of each of these videos where I look back on the old FNAF titles, I want to rank them on a tier list. That way, once I get through all the games, we can see where each of them stands in my opinion. For this game, I have to go with S tier. The gameplay is perfectly simple yet scary. The character designs were instantly iconic, and the story had so many fans, including myself, engaged the moment they interacted with the series. I truly believe that Five Nights at Freddy's was lightning in a bottle. Everything in the game was executed perfectly in a way that would lead to it becoming the popular series and huge IP it is today. Let me know where you guys would rank FNAF 1 on your tier list. With that being said though, that is going to be it from me guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.